Well, sometimes the videographer helper presses to take a picture instead of to actually record. But Merry Vlogmas, everyone. Today's Vlogmas is all about candy making, which is why I'm wearing a Christmas apron. I'm going to open the Next Stitchmas calendar, and it is this very cute little hanger to hang a project on, and there's a pattern for making another project. This type of crochet hook my daughter has seen before. I have not, so she'll have to teach me how to use this one. Merry Vlogmas, and enjoy the process of making hard candy with us. So today we're going to be making hard candy. That's a family recipe. I'm sharing our secret family recipe with you, y'all. So in this hard candy, there's only 3 simple ingredients that you have to add until the end when you add the flavoring and the coloring. So we're gonna make half batches of it. I took a picture and I'll be showing you the full recipe, but keep in mind we're making a half batch. When there's only 2 of you rolling the candy and cutting the candy, you have to work really, really fast. So I think it's best for us to try a half batch and see how that goes before we try a full batch for the 2 of us together. So the first thing you're gonna add is 1 7/8 cup of sugar. Next, you're gonna be adding a half cup of water. For the Caro syrup, we're gonna be adding 5/8 of a cup. Next, I'm gonna be turning on my stove, and I have to heat the candy up to 300 degrees. So you need a candy thermometer. I usually like to stir the whole mixture with a wooden spoon. That works best. And I'll get back to you as soon as I get it up to candy, the hard candy stage. We're at 300, so we pulled it off the heat. And I'm gonna first add a 1/4 teaspoon of coloring. So I ordered this coloring off Amazon, and it's just Chef Master Liquid Gel food coloring. Just trying to get it off my... Okay, and then this is Loran oil, super strength. And for purple, we're using watermelon flavor. That's probably a little extra, but it's okay. I like my candy to have a good flavor. Ooh, it smells delicious. So I'm stirring it up. So watermelon is purple. And I'm gonna take this measuring spoon, the 1/4 cup measuring spoon, and the thermometer, and I'm just going to put it right over here in the sink in a glass of water, because I don't want that to harden on there or it will be awful to try to get it off. So now I'm just giving it a really good stir. You want to show them it again? Here it is, just a really, really good stir. So it's already starting to get a little bit thick, so we need to get that out of the pot. So next, what I'm gonna do is carry the pot. We have the powdered sugar station set up. So you carry it over here. And I'm gonna pour the candy onto this baking sheet that has been coated with powdered sugar. Now, it's not a light coat. Keep in mind, the powdered sugar, it's about 3/4 of a bag of powdered sugar that is pressed on to this cookie sheet, okay? So this is all I got out of a half a batch. So I kind of think my husband and I can handle a whole batch next time. So let me take this pot over. I'm gonna run hot water in it right away. Remember, I don't want this to get hard in my pot, nor do I want it to get hard on my spoon. So I'm gonna let that soak for a minute while this is starting to get cool. Now it doesn't take very long for it to get cool. How I tell when it's ready, oh, and it might be, no, not yet. So what my mom always did is she just kind of lifted it up to see if it was cool enough, because I'm gonna cut it into a chunk and then I'm rolling it into a snake. So stay tuned, we'll be right back with that step.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing I do is I'm gonna take my scissors and just kind of lift it up and cut off a little blob like that. Do you see that? I cut it off. So the edges should be ready for me to cut. So I'm taking it and cutting it off. After I get some cut off, I'm gonna pick it up. Now it's gonna be warm, quite warm on your hands at first, but you have to work fast. And then all I do is I roll it like this. See the snake? Okay. Then I'm gonna start cutting my snake. Oops, and it's a little too warm. Let me try that again. Re-roll it, get my snake. And when I cut it, we cut and turn, cut and turn. So just keep turning when you cut. And that way it helps it not have sharp corners. If you have a minute, you can always kind of smush it down. The sharp corners can cut your tongue. So you have to be super careful with the sharp corners. So again, roll, cut, turn. And then I'm just kind of smoothing down my sharp corners real quick. And this has to go really fast. You have to work quite fast. So here's the candy all cut up. You can tell I started with really small pieces at the beginning, and as we were rushing at the end, we had to get a lot bigger pieces. So some of these are really big. But definitely, see, here's like little pieces at the beginning. Definitely at the, for just 2 people making the candy, I would really recommend a half batch, because we had to work really fast and I felt like it was getting just way too hard at the end. So if at all possible, try to smooth down your little corners so that they're not rough and cutting your tongue. And then, as you saw, I didn't just add the 1/4 teaspoon of watermelon. I added more than that by accident, but I think it even could use a little bit more. So I think for flavoring, I would like to do a 1/2 teaspoon of the flavoring. Even though they say they're extra strength, I really like my hard candy to have a flavor to it, not just be like a mystery flavor. Does that make sense? So that's what I learned. The other thing that I learned when I was pouring it on the bed of powdered sugar, I should have just poured it in one big plop instead of kind of spreading it out like that. Next time, I'm just gonna pour it in one big plop. And I do remember when we made it with my mom, she would just start cutting off pieces around the edges, and then the center stayed warm. So you had a little more time working with it if you could keep your center warm, and then your edges cooled the fastest. So you worked with the edges, and then by the time you got to the middle, it was cool. So I'll videotape it one more time. Right now, I have the next batch going on the stove. It is a good idea to stir almost constantly. It doesn't have to be constantly, but it does need to be almost constantly. And what we found, and I do remember this from my mom, that it seems like it gets stuck at like 220, 240, 260. It's kind of just stuck there for a while. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's 300. So you really, once it starts getting up there past like 240, 260, You really need to keep a close eye on it because it goes fast to the 300 mark. Okay, this is what it looks like when it's like 170. It's not that hard. They call it a hard boil. And on the thermometer, it even tells you hard crack phase, soft crack phase, etc. It tells you which type of candy it is. Where we want it to be 300, which it's really hard crack phase at that. It's above the hard crack phase, so it's super hard. You don't crack it, you're sucking on it. Okay, so I'll show you the next pour, and while each batch is cooking, I get ready the next round of ingredients so that I can quickly dump it in. Everything's soaked in the sink while we were working with this last batch, and then it cleaned up really easy. So do not, make sure you clean your pan in between. That's our dogs making all that noise. Make sure you clean the pan in between each batch, because you don't want, like we're making orange cream next. You don't want your orange cream and your watermelon flavors to gel together. You really need to clean everything really well so that you don't have any flavor contamination between your candies. Okay, so look, we're already up to almost 220. So I'll see you back when I'm pouring it on the pan. This is supposed to be orange. I think I put a little too much red. I put mostly yellow and just a tiny bit of red, but whew. So I just tried pouring it straight in the middle this time instead of pushing it around. I'm just doing it straight in the middle. All right, I want to show you what happens when you get bubbles in the candy. When you pour it and there's a bubble, you have to kind of cut the bubble. You have to break up that bubble. Do you see that? That's just a hole. But here is an actual bubble. I'm cutting it and breaking it. It's gonna get, your scissors are gonna get stuck, but it's okay. As soon as they dry off, the candy will come right off your scissors, okay? And then the other thing Brett and I discovered, so my mom used to always like pull the candy up a little bit to tell if it was cool enough to start cutting. That's definitely not cool enough. I'll show you in a minute what it looks like when it is cool enough. And the dog's squeaking its toy. Sorry about that. But what we discovered is if one person cuts some chunks off and the other person starts rolling the snakes, then they just roll the snakes, set them aside, maybe get like 5 or 6 snakes rolled, and then go ahead and cut the snakes. Then it went a lot faster, and we could get through the whole half batch before it got too cool and we couldn't use it at all. So just a couple more tips for you. All right, let's see if it's ready to cut yet. All right, so I can kind of pull it up a little, and I'm trying to go under the powdered sugar, and then I just kind of move it away. So let me try another edge. Remember, always go to the edges first. I can pull it up a little, and then I just kind of pull it away from the rest, and then it will cool off a little faster. So that little piece is gonna cool off, and we can start making our snakes a little faster. All right, so now I'm gonna go over to this one. So I'm trying to not cut into the powdered sugar. I'm just pulling it up off the powdered sugar. Does that make sense? See, I'm pulling it up with my scissors and give it a little cut. So here's all the candy that we made. It was 7 half batches. It took us about 4 hours. If we had more helpers, we probably could have gotten 7 batches done, full batches done in 4 hours. But because it was just my husband and I, it took us 4 hours to do 7 half batches. The watermelon, we colored purple. The orange cream, we colored orange. Cherry, we colored red. Lemonade, we colored yellow. Root beer was brown. Green apple was green. Strawberry kiwi, we did blue. So I think this candy would even be really fun if you did it all red and green for Christmas. And the other note that I wanted to tell you, the type of flavor oils, I'll put a picture of them up, but the type of oils, I ended up using 3 times the recommended amount. So it was a half a teaspoon for a full batch, 1/4 teaspoon for a half. I did 3/4 of a teaspoon per batch to get a good flavor that I liked. The coloring, I didn't really go by the measurements of the coloring. I just added a tiny bit of coloring until I liked the color that it was. So I hope you enjoyed this homemade candy video, and maybe it will inspire you to try your own candy. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.